first thing I'm going to do is to tape down the trading card. And I'm using washi tape to tape it down, but you can use masking tape. I'm putting more tape on this cutting board that I'm using than I am on the card itself. Next, I'm going to cut some strips of tape that will be these trunks of these palm trees. I'm just using an X-Acto knife, and I'm just going to cut. You can cut them any width that you want to make these. I'm going to cut a few long strips. And then I can always just pop them in half when they're the length that I want them to be. I want the trees to go off the page. But after I do that, I'm going to put a piece of tape across the card where the horizon is, where the sky meets the water. Now, if you want to emphasize your sky, you can have a lower line like this so you have more sky, or you can bring it up if you want to show more water. Another thing that I might tell you now is, like, if you wanted to have a little sailboat out there, you need to go ahead and use your masking tape and mask that in before you put this line in. But want to make sure I get this line straight across. And now I'm using just a regular prime palette. So now I'm going to wet the sky with some clean water. And when you're painting in watercolor, you always want to paint your lights first. So I'm going to go in with my yellow first, and I always add a little, like even in a little area over here, I want to add the water. I don't want to go directly from here straight to my palette, because sometimes you'll get a big glob of paint that way. I also like to keep a sponge handy that I can dab. If I get too much water, I can dab the sponge. Next, I'm going to get some orange. I might even mix a little bit of red with this orange. And I'm going to once again dab this in, just in a few places. I'm also leaving a lot of white. You can always go back in and add more color, but you want to reserve your whites when you can. And next, I'm going to add some blue. And once again, I mixed it with water over here so I don't get a big glob of paint. And I'm just going to add. Now, if you want to have a bluer sky and not have as many oranges in your sky, you can do that. But once I add my colors in, then what I'm going to do next is I'm going to tilt my palette and let the colors run together, and they will. I don't want to keep working on the sky, and because what will happen is I'll just get it very it'll all look the same color and look very flat. I'll lose all that color. Okay, next I'm going to take a hair dryer and I'm going to dry my sky. And when it's dry to the touch, where I barely touch it and I don't have any watercolor come back, I can then remove the tape. But if you remove this tape while your sky is still wet, you'll tear your paper. Okay, ooh, I'm really loving the sky now. It's so fun. Okay, so now I'm going to wet my brush again, and I want to replicate these colors that are in my sky. I want to have some of the colors down in here. So I'm going to clean my brush, and I'm going to grab some of the colors that I used in my sky where I had them, and I'm just going to kind of dab them into the sky, into the sea. And where I have that orange right there, I want to because I'm going to probably cover some of this up with the blue, but I want to have just that little hint of the sunset there. Next, I'm going to mix green with blue. I want to get a dark, dark turquoise. And I'm going to go right along this line with that dark pigment. I'm going to add a little bit more blue to this. Yeah. See how I'm skipping around to kind of show waves there? And I'm moving laterally. If you look at this, I'm moving laterally across with the side of my brush. As it gets closer, I'm going to add more water, but I'm just picking up the paint that I've already got on there. I'm not really going back in. All right, and I don't want to go below my tree line, but if I did, I just have to make my trees down in the sand more. And I want that to dry. If this is dry to the touch, I can now, like I did in some other demonstrations, I'm going to outline where these trees are, because when I pull them up, I won't be able to see them, obviously. And then I'm going to pull up the trees. And I'm using a greenish brown for the trunks of these palm trees. So I'm going to just come down in a sweeping motion like this, and you don't want to paint up like that on the fronds because you want the ends of them to be thin. So you just kind of block in your leaves. Let that dry while I do the sand down here, but before I do the sand, I want to cover up, and I can use another card to cover up. I could actually use the back of this card to cover up my sky and my water before I splatter. And I'm using a regular toothbrush and just any color that you want your sand. I'm going to put some oranges in first. Kind of give it a coral look. And then I think I want to use some of this really washed out brown. Rinse my brush out. Watery brown. And there you go. Now I can do the shadows on my palms that add a little bit more drama to it. To add the shadows, I'm going to use blue with a tiny bit of brown in it. If you have a palette with professional colors, you might want to use Payne's Gray. Maybe a little bit more. Just kind of give it some more drama. And that's it.